Hello, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Sep Dunham, Assistant Director for Graduate Recruitment in the Office of Graduate Studies for the Columbian College of Arts and Sciences here at George Washington University. We're excited to have you here for our MS in Geography and Environment and GIS Certificate Information session. So I will start with a brief introduction to GW, and then I'm going to turn it over to our faculty presenters, Professors Michael Mann and Brendan Hurley, who are going to give you an overview of the program. This is about a 10 to 30-minute presentation, but it'll be followed by time for questions. So you can submit your questions using the Q&A box function at the bottom of your screen. If you look down, it's usually in that Zoom toolbar. You can ask questions as they kind of pop into your mind. Just be aware that we're not going to start answering them live until the end of the presentation. But let's begin with a quick introduction to GW. So the George Washington University is located in the heart of Washington, D.C. As the largest institution of higher education in the U.S. Capitol, GW attracts nearly 11,000 undergraduate students and 15,000 graduate students from over 130 countries, helping to foster a vibrant community. Our main campus is just 4 blocks from the White House, so it's close to some of the world's most influential government agencies, nonprofits, and private sector organizations. This prime location offers students a wealth of opportunities for internships, research, and future careers. Within GW, the Columbian College of Arts and Sciences, or CCAS as we call it, is our largest academic unit. We are home to over 5,484 undergraduate and 2,218 graduate students, and we offer more than 90 graduate programs. Our programs are supported by our full-time faculty, our over 500 full-time faculty members who help promote collaboration, critical thinking, and hands-on learning. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to the department to introduce us to the program.
Hey guys, I'm Mike Mann. I'm one of the professors in the Department of Geography and Environment. I think that one of the things that I really like to start with is sort of thinking about what geography is a little more holistically. Geography is definitely something I sort of stumbled into. I was doing econ and public policy and public finance in Africa, and I wanted to do more environmental work, and I ended up in a geography department. And it's really been an amazing experience in that geography is sort of a place where that works across many silos. So we do everything from sort of satellite remote sensing to earth science to machine learning to interviewing immigrants at the border to just about everything that you can imagine. And it is just sort of hugely integrative. We have a list here of a few of the projects that are sort of ongoing in our department, everything from sort of slum mapping using satellite imagery to understanding the effects of Uber on labor movements and sort of political power in urban environments, to what Brendan does, tracking turtles in Mexico and looking at sort of endangered species. And what's really neat about a career that involves geography is that people come to you because you are able to sort of talk and communicate across a variety of fields. So in my day-to-day work, I work with economists, I've worked with archaeologists, I've worked with data science, ecology, pretty much everything you can imagine. I'm even doing a project on MERS-CoV, an infectious disease involving camels in East Africa right now. So it's always interesting, and it's really quite dynamic. And I think it makes you sort of nimble and useful to a huge variety of folks. So in our department, we have sort of 2 primary degrees. There's the MS in Geography and Environment, and there's also the GIS certificate, which Brendan is going to be talking to you a little bit about. I think that one of the unique things about this program is you kind of get a 2-for-1, which is unheard of in any academic program. So if you do the MS in Geography and Environment, you can add the GIS certificate at no additional cost. And basically, you just use more of your electives towards the certificate requirements. So The MS program is structured in a fairly straightforward way. We have a few required classes. There's a geographic thought class where you're going to sort of learn a little bit about the field in general. You're also going to have some time then to think about if you want to do independent research or a thesis at the end of your program and identify topics. We also require some basic GIS, so GIS 1. And then you can choose between either qualitative methods or geospatial statistics. And then we have sort of the breadth requirements, which is one additional GIS, one additional human geography, one additional environment class. The elective lists, if you go onto our website, you'll see that we cover a lot of really interesting topics. And there's no shortage of things to sink your teeth into. And then as the sort of final semester, typically people are only taking one class, and that will be either your capstone or a thesis. If you're doing a capstone, the idea here is to get you guys internships in the field. And I'll show you some of the projects later that our students are doing this year. But really, we want you to sort of have your foot in the door at an organization that you want to be working at sort of on day one. So when you leave here, you're good to go. And I think that really differentiates us from a lot of programs. We're very much career oriented and student oriented. So there's also a thesis option, which is essentially your whole second year. You'll be able to work with two faculty members and dive into something you feel really passionate about. Now I'm going to hand it over to Brendan.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Brendan Hurley. I am the director of the Graduate Certificate in Geographic Information Systems here at GW. As Mike mentioned, it's a pretty good combination if you elect to enroll in the certificate with your master's in geography. But as for details in the certificate, we do overall we require 4 courses with quite a bit of autonomy given to you to determine what direction you'd like to take your certificate. To start out, we offer our Intro to GIS, the Geographic Information Systems 1 course, which to stress to you guys who are worried about prior experiences, does not assume any background in geographic information systems one way or the other. So we'll take anybody who's interested and willing to learn. And the second required course is geospatial statistics, which is going to cover all manner of some of the math behind geography. So from once you've completed those 2 courses, the direction in which your certificate should go is up to you. We offer everything from, as you see here, electives, remote sensing, digital image processing, if you want to go towards the satellite-derived data route. Quite a bit of programming. Professor Mann has expanded the offerings in programming in the department over the past few years. And then a few higher-level applied courses like GIS for emergency management, geovisualization, which is a more storytelling narrative, driving a narrative, drawing users and readers in type course. And then one of the things that I feel that sets GW apart from other schools is our focus on a lot of open source avenues in GIS, of which we have open source programming, and we have our open source quantum or QGIS course. Next slide. So to back up a little bit, as Mike had mentioned, anything that you're interested in, I'd be willing to bet that Mike and I could argue that there is a geographic component to. So when you're pulling together your application and saying, I'd like to go to graduate school for something involving geography, we'd like to ask you to answer what that something is. And I'd be willing to bet, as far as the certificate in GIS is concerned, there's a place and a data set somewhere for you to analyze and maybe build a thesis or a capstone out of. And we're listing a few here, clearly not exhaustive, of climate change, transportation, wildlife, urban planning, waste management. We have that whole class I mentioned previously in emergency management. Basically, you could say that the subject matter and coursework that we offer are limited only by what you're interested in studying. Next slide. For example, flood. There was severe flooding over West Africa last year. I'm sure, as many of you know, Ghana and Nigeria, et cetera, had quite a bit of flooding. And I'd be willing to bet that both countries and Niger as well had their geographic information systems departments mapping impacts of it. And here in the US, we just had extensive fires out in California, Los Angeles area. Another excellent use of geographic information systems to find out where emergency services need to be sent, and in recovery efforts, exactly where construction equipment, trailers for people who now don't have homes, et cetera, need to be placed. All can be integrated within a geographic information system. Next slide. So, like I had said before, we want to reiterate, if you're nervous about the idea of taking on something quantitative or software based, we've got it covered. Okay, so our intro to GIS will explain the platforms that we use that are popular in the field, keeping in mind that our main goal outside of teaching you GIS is to make sure that you're imminently employable. That would be in GIS1, the main software platforms that are used, basic cartographic and geoprocessing skills, and then Professor Mann's intro to programming, another incredibly employable skill set if you're interested in that particular avenue career-wise. And next slide.
Yeah. Oh, just one thing to add on there. So if you feel like you have a strong background in either programming or GIS already, you can waive out of the sort of like introductory classes. So whether you're sort of new to it or whether you're experienced, we can make that work for you. So don't worry about that. The next bit is, I think that one of the major differentiating factors between our department and others is that we are very, very interested in your employment outcomes after you leave here. My graduate school experience, and I think Brendan had a similar one, is that many programs really don't care that much about students. They care about their particular corner of the research world, and that's about it. That is not the case for us. We want you to get internships. We want you to get to meet employers. So we are actually sort of actively building out alumni networks. We have something like 400 or 500 alumni on our LinkedIn list. We're trying to get you guys to sort of do informal interviews with people that are working at places that you want to end up at. We're also inviting in employers to the department. We just had 5 folks in a few weeks ago, just sort of getting you introduced to potential employers and building those direct relationships between the department and places that you might end up wanting to work. So that is, I think, a really big differentiator. I will say that, there's a lot of, Washington, D.C. is in the news a lot right now. And I won't lie, my family has been affected by the closure of USAID. I do think, however, in the sort of medium term, that there are tremendous needs for services across the government, whether that is carried out by career civil servants or by the private sector. I don't think that those needs will change. So I am, in the medium term, I am optimistic, and I think that you should be too. So don't worry, the world is not totally collapsing around us. It's just an odd bit of a reset mode here. I thought I would just sort of highlight some of the internships that we had this year. So we have 7 students working with FEMA right now. One of these folks is looking at high resolution satellite imagery to identify impacted homeless populations around the fire. At Red Cross, there's a student working on using AI and Google Street View to identify vulnerable structures to natural disaster with Red Cross. There's somebody working on green building standards with the Department of Energy and Environment. And we have another student working with USGS looking at illegal mining in West Africa and using remote sensing to identify those sites. And I think that this sort of speaks to our student focus. We really try to make it a friendly environment for you. We have a WhatsApp group so that incoming students can sort of collaborate together, find housing together, get to know each other before you actually, move to DC. We open up our offices to students. We have community events. We have a kitchen which we keep stocked with snacks and coffee and all that kind of stuff. So we really go out of our way to make you guys feel comfortable. And I think that it really creates a sort of warm and caring learning environment, which is, I think rarely the case in many departments. Then I think that the next bit is that, I think that you guys have a unique opportunity here to make a really strong impact in the world, right? Our alumni are going out and doing amazing things. So like working with undocumented immigrants, working with NASA to better understand land use change and degradation, all kinds of really interesting stuff. So I think that our goal is to make you guys empowered and to be sort of change makers for tomorrow. And I think we do absolutely everything in our power to get you there. There's quite a few resources that are available to students, and I know that this is sort of a primary concern for many of you. This year we have 7 research assistantships that are open, ranging from a class on society and environment to GIS to physical geography. Due to the sort of oddities and the cyclical nature of research funding, we don't have any sort of specific research assistantships outside of some sort of hourly contract work, which is still a great way to be involved with a project, but there's less of a sort of tuition benefit that comes along with it. There is also what it's called the Campbell Research Grant. So for those of you that are interested in doing a thesis, essentially you'll build your topic out in your geographic thought class. You'll start thinking about what you want to research. And then in the summer of your second year, you'll have an opportunity to apply to one of these grants where you can get between $1,000 and $3,000 to fly anywhere in the US or around the world that you want to do your research. We've had folks go down to Brownsville in Texas to interview folks around the new SpaceX launch port. We've had folks fly up to the Arctic to help with Arctic research. There's a really like unlimited possibilities there based on whatever your interests are. And one thing that's also nice is that DC has an extremely active sort of geographic and environmental community. There's lots of meetup groups. There's lots of sort of early career groups. And we do our best to sort of keep you guys integrated into that. In terms of tuition and living expenses, we are a private institution. The cost of attendance is, relatively high. The full tuition is about $60,000. Very few of you will ever be asked to pay that. There are very often Dean's Awards, which are sort of one-time $10,000 tuition benefits. There's also the Global Leaders program. Do we know what the amount that comes off of the Global Leaders this year? I think it changes.
I think it's up to 10,000, but I'll verify and I'm gonna share the link in the chat.
Okay, great. We also have teaching assistantships, which will have a tuition benefit, typically between $10,000 and $20,000. and a sort of hourly payment. We are assuming you're working 20 hours a week at DC minimum wage, which is actually quite high. It's about $18 an hour. And that's what we're going to have available this year. Those of you that are applying, if you do get offers from other universities, please send those offer letters to us if they are beating our sort of tuition benefit or whatever. GW can often match those, but we need the letter itself, right? We need the letter itself. For international students, well, I guess this applies to everybody, but we are now designated as STEM. So I think that certainly people understand the importance of the STEM education, and being able to put that on your resume helps quite a bit. There's a very sort of literal importance for international students in that it allows you an additional 24 months of OPT work permits after your sort of initial 12-month period. So that is a huge boom for folks that are coming here from abroad. And that's what we have.